Palm, you know what I realized? Most people in real estate are still playing by yesterday's rules, and that's why they're losing.
That's totally true. It's like watching people fight over 1970s kitchens and hoping that the buyer will like the backsplash. Meanwhile, we're creating entire neighborhoods. When we first started, we were those people painting cabinets, begging buyers to see the potential, but deep down we knew there had to be a smarter way. We weren't born into a real estate dynasty. We learned to read the game, and the game had changed.
So when you said the algorithms change, what do you mean by that?
Back in, like right after the Great Recession that happened in 2008, 2009, the housing market actually kind of slumped for a while. And what ended up happening with that was there was a low in property value kind of dropped. There was a low in activities in buying. And around 2012, things totally changed as interest rates starts dropping because the government needed to induce activity in the marketplace. Real estate was one of the biggest beneficiary of that. What happened was that at that time, property values were still relatively more affordable than it is today, but there was a pent-up demand for housing. Millennials were starting to get household formation, so they were also at an age where they're looking to purchase properties. It was kind of like the perfect storm of activities. Relatively low home prices, low interest rates, and a pent-up demand that was about to explode. With that said, flipping became the best game in town. You remember there were so many shows on cable. Flip this, flip that, flip dirty houses, flip clean houses.
I used to be glued to one of those shows.
Exactly. And they made it so easy. They made it people feel like I can just go buy any house and then just flip it. And that's where the term lipstick on a pig came into play. At that time, it was really easy. Just go buy a house, paint it up, change the carpeting, change the floor, little touch ups here and there, and you made money. And that's where the flipping culture became such a phenomenon in real estate. But if you look forward to like 2017, 2018, it started getting harder. People actually had to work to do more work. Even for us, when we were in flipping, we weren't just doing lipstick on a pig. We actually have to add significant value. And that meant, doing additions. That meant redoing roofing, redoing everything in the house.
Basically tearing down basically almost all the wall except one.
Exactly. And so at that point, it became expensive. So instead of buying a property, doing $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 renovation, flipping it, making $100,000 profit. Okay, and context, we're talking about Los Angeles. So internet, don't get mad and say, no way you make $100,000 profit. You do in LA. So context is different. But for us, we were doing that and it was fine. But towards the end of that period, we also recognized, hey, this game is changing. Sellers are now more attuned to what the market conditions changes are. People are now aware of flipping. They're not gonna allow you to buy property for $500K and sell for $1 million, which what you did at the beginning. So we recognize
$1 million something.
And also this came about prior, like 2008, 2009, it was MLS, right? Brokers control the deals. When Zillow came into play, Redfin came into play, it changed the game. It made it so that it was easier for sellers and buyers to interact without really working through a broker. So all that said, pricing became something that everyone can compare. Everyone had access to the same information. As we fast forward to 2025, if you think flipping is the game, it's like, someone taking a selfie and thinking that it'll go viral. That's just not how it works. The algorithm doesn't reward that kind of stuff anymore.
We learned the hard way. After our fashion business crashed, we thought flipping would save us. We hustle, scrape paint, tile bathrooms. But the truth, we were just trading one hustle for another. We weren't building wealth. We were buying jobs.
And that's when we realized the game has changed. The real game isn't flipping. It's creating assets. Flipping, it squeezes the value out of an existing product. Development creates value when nothing exists before.
But most people still think development is for billionaires.
Yeah, and that is the biggest myth in real estate. Development isn't a billionaire playground. It's a partnership game. You syndicate, you raise capital, and you bring people in. Like we always said, what you lack in ability, you make up in leverage. Instead of betting everything on one kitchen remodel, you share the risk across an entire community.
The first time we did it, we were terrified. We didn't come from money. English isn't even our first language, but partnership was the bridge between where we were and where we wanted to be. We realized if you can't do it alone, good, you're not supposed to. What's the real difference between single-family house flipping and large-scale ground-up development like our build-to-rent community?
There's a really big difference. Flipping is really transactional. You have one seller that sold you the property, you flip the house, and that goes to one buyer, and that's your payday. But when you build an entire community, which is called build-to-rent community, like the ones we are building, that's a continued payday for year after year, month after month. It's not one deal, one time, and you have to go out and scramble to go find another deal. Everyone knows buying the right property is so difficult in this market. Regardless of interest rates or anything like that, it's still hard to buy the right property at the right price. So with with BTR, the reason it's so attractive is that we already found the best land in the high demand location, and we get to reap the benefit year over year. It's like growing an apple tree. We grow the tree so they can eat all the fruits. Instead of having one fruit, eat it and it's gone. That's really the difference between flipping housing and BTR communities.
And in addition, right now, American is turning to become a renter nation.
Yeah, that's actually true.
So like you said, flipping is like you remodel, renovate, and you sell to one family, but build to rent community, we built from ground up, and then our investor and us benefit from the cash flow that it will be producing for years to come.
You know, because if you think about it, I know when we had to deal with the city, the contractor, even the buyers, it was such a pain in the butt, or even the neighbors, by the way. You know, for every single property, it's a pain in the butt. And think about, in order to make money today in flipping, you have to flip more houses because the margin isn't there. And you have to keep doing that over and over again. Start that entire process. We've eliminated that because BTR, we bought the land from a couple of different sellers, but that was one time. We developed it, but that's one time. And then the renters come in and they live in our townhomes, but it's not one time. They're going to pay you rent at least 12 months, which is 1 year lease because that's the minimum.
And times 100 townhomes.
Exactly.
Right?
And a lot of the people statistically have shown that people who live in BTR communities, either townhomes or single family homes, tend to stay longer than those who live in actual apartments. And the reason for that is because these are their community. They're living in these homes as if they're buying it. They're getting the benefit of a community, of a brand new development, but instead of having to pay the mortgage, instead of having to pay the principal, interest, property tax, they get to just pay one rental check each month. And that's why it's a synergetic relationship. They get the benefit, we also get the benefit, and then after
our investor gets benefit.
Yeah, and so like you build it one time and you can relax. You don't have to scurry to go find another deal. That's why it's so different. Our parents came to America with little money and a dream to work hard, save, and hope it's enough. But that formula caps your life. Building communities, that's not just real estate. It's rewriting a narrative for immigrant families like ours.
You always talk about the age of partnership. What does that mean?
Okay, so picture this. You know, for thousands of years, we lived in an agrarian society where basically lords owned fiefdom and they had people who worked the land. And the people who worked the land, they don't actually make money. They actually got crops that they can keep, and then the rest they have to give to the people who actually own the land. And that was the society, the culture, the economy for the longest period of time. Wealth came from the land. It was controlled by a few, and there were a whole bunch of people who were working the land who made very little benefit from it. So that society was really lopsided, and that lasted for thousands of years. Then we entered the industrial age. This was probably like the middle 1800s to early 1900s. This is where machinery replaced farm workers. People moved from the farmland working with their family actually to the city, and that was probably one of the first time they actually started making income. And the difference there is now the factory owners, they're the one who own the money. They're the ones who actually control the wealth, and they pay their people. And that's why there came like novels like by Uptown Sinclair about, you know, like the horrible working conditions in these really slave-like condition in these factories. And that's came about like all the reforms and all the safety that came into place after that. So at that time, controlling labor was significantly important, and that came directly from the factory owners. And then we entered this new age of knowledge, of information, and that became where like the 80s happened, where we got introduced to computers and introduced to a new way of communicating with each other across the globe. That meant that anyone who controlled information, they held the hand of the economy. They were the one who were controlling the wealth. And that's where you saw companies like Microsoft, you saw companies all over the place that started like becoming Dell, Hewlett Packard, all the big kind of legacy tech company. That's where they started grounding the roots, Oracle, etc. So those billionaires that we know and love today, or not, depending on what your point of view, that's where they kind of like did their work, right? So that was the knowledge age. Today, because of the vast access to the internet, because of the vast communication technology allows us to travel faster, communicate with each other through different medium. We don't have to be in contact personally to have relationships, personally or business-wise. It's completely changed the playing field. So now we're in the age of partnership. So what does that mean? Partnership means that what I said at the beginning, what you lack in ability, you can leverage. Leverage what? You can leverage tools, you can leverage other people, you can leverage partnership, you can leverage skill set, time, team, debt. Those are the 5 kind of leverage, and money. Those are the 6 type of leverage that we always talk about. The partnership one becomes the most premium and becomes the most like salient to our conversation, because none of the things that we've ever built in real estate could have come about without partnership. We're able to connect with partners who live locally. We're able to connect with partners who at the beginning help us gain credibility in the market, who understood how to do this game. game.
And then we were able to connect with our partner property managers.
Exactly.
To help run day-to-day operation, our lender.
Yeah, and now we're doing the same thing. Now we're the lead partners. Now we're the more senior people, although, like we're not senior in age, but we're senior in experience with them. So now we're able to also pass the torch where we were the ones who someone else was holding our hand, bringing us into the game when we got started 7 years ago. But now we're able to actually help bring people along. We're really proud of that because we are never the people who think that we should want to own a whole grape. We rather own a piece of a watermelon or maybe even a watermelon farm, right? So that's why partnership becomes so important in this age, and it allows for the speed of growth to be exponential. Because if you do something by yourself, you're gonna have linear progression at best, not only in terms of physical doing the work, but also in terms of mindset, experience, perspective,
time.
But when you have partnership, everything just goes so much faster. So the key is finding the right partners who definitely don't have the same skill sets, but have the same mindset as you, because it's a marriage that you're gonna have for several years. I mean, think about it. Wealth comes from collaboration in the age of partnership. Think about this. 2 girls who have no business to do anything we're doing at this scale, yet we have $400 million in asset that we're building or buying across the Sunbelt, from Dallas, Fort Worth to Houston, Texas to Rogers, Arkansas. Back when we were flipping, we were stuck in the old age. We were stuck doing stuff by ourselves in a silo. Now we know that the right partners don't just add value, they multiply. Partnerships gave us financial and time freedom. It's why we can travel, create, and still scale. It's not about doing it all, it's about aligning people who do it well.
So how does partnership actually look in multifamily real estate?
That's a really good question, because one of the key things I want to emphasize at the beginning is you have to make sure that the skill sets that you and your partners have are collaborative, not overlapping. That's really the main point that I want to emphasize at the beginning. In multifamily syndication, there are 5 main buckets. The first one is deal sourcer extraordinary. These are the people who are like Sherlock Holmes, always sniffing through, finding the best multifamily properties or land for us to invest in. You enjoy math, you understand underwriting, and you just love to dig into the fine details. Next is the relationship guru, the one who cultivates trust and relationship with all the necessary parties. Brokers, property managers, wizards, mortgage lenders, etc. Those are the few people that would be like your go-to. Then there's the asset manager. Your boots on the ground, you're making sure everything runs smoothly to day-to-day operations of each property. And when it comes to development, you're the project manager. You're the one on site weekly to make sure everything's running smoothly. Next is the money maestro. Always be networking. That's what we say, right? Finding investors, raising capital, making sure that the multifamily deals or development deals are possible. The last partnership bucket is the liquidity guru, someone who has the financial net worth liquidity to secure the necessary loan to acquire the multifamily deal or the development deal. This is someone who may not have the time or interest or desire to jump in and do everything themselves, but they have the balance sheet and they can lend that to the project. One thing I want to make clear right here is if you're listening to this and you're relatively new, do not fret. Don't think like, oh my gosh, that's 5 different buckets I have to master. No, that's precisely why the age of partnership is so important to this. You can find either 5 individuals who have those skill sets, or maybe they have 1 or 2 skill sets that can come and be part of the team. So what you need to do right now is, if you're reviewing this and you're serious about getting into development or the multifamily game, think about what the skill sets that you have that you can bring to the table. A lot of people always ask Nan and I like, hey guys, like I want to partner with you. What do I have to do? Well, if you analyze these 5 buckets and you recognize like, what do we have? There's always deficits in the game. There's always room where we want to also grow and improve.
So we always looked for a deal and money, right? We have partnered with people who bring the money. We have partnered with people who bring the deals. So you just have to ask the GP or the team that you want to work with, what are you looking for? How can I add value to you guys?
Yeah, so a lot of people, they come in and they kind of think like, hey, this is what I want. I want to be a partner. Instead, ask the reverse question. What do the people that you want to partner with need right now? And that will help move the needle so much more, because if you go the other way, it's not going to work. Then you're asking us to separate our time from our busy schedule to go and help someone that may not be of benefit or value to our investment or our investors.
So we have a partner in Atlanta where we helped won his first deal.
Yeah.
That was his first deal, but that was none of our first deal. Yeah. But that was because he was in the market that we were looking into, but we didn't have the bandwidth. Yeah. So he was able to bring the deal, and then we were able to secure the finance and raise all the capitals and, take over the deal.
Yeah, so he was the one who walked the properties, underwrote the deal, and brought it to us and said, hey, after a couple years of knowing this person, person. So we grew to trust his underwriting. We're not going to just trust any random underwriting because those are really, critical to a successful deal. So we knew this person, and when he brought us the deal, we reviewed it. We said, okay, this makes sense. And so that's why we form a partnership with him.
And then we lend him our credibility, our track record,
to get the deal done. Let me say this again. You don't need to master them all. You partner. That's how we went from flipping one house to having over $400 million in multifamily real estate portfolio. When you embrace partnership, you multiply your strengths. When you reject it, you limit your growth and you risk being left behind.
So people said real estate is dead right now because of high interest rate.
Yeah, I would say actually it's the opposite. Right now, transaction volumes are increasing significantly. And if you look at the traditional way of doing real estate, which is flipping, yeah, it's not working. Debt's too expensive, buyers are price sensitive. Even multifamily deals a lot of times right now aren't penciling out. But development, that's where it gets exciting. It's really a solution that solves the supply and demand imbalance while actually allowing developers to buy at a really low basis. And so we're not competing or chasing after excessively high prices. We're buying at the lowest possible price because we're buying dirt. We're creating something new with built-in equity and long-term scalability.
So basically, development is where the new algorithm lives.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly where we're so excited. And here's the thing, we didn't have construction experience when we started. We definitely didn't build 100 plus anything before. We just partnered with people who did. That's the new age. You don't need to know everything. You just need to know the right people. When we started our build to rent community in Melissa, Texas, people thought we were crazy. But now it's coming to life. Buildings are taking shape, cabinets are being installed, tubs are being put in. It's under budget and on schedule. And there's already the pre-lease hype because when you create value, the market follows you.
So to sum it up, flipping is the old game.
That's right. And the people who keep playing it, they'll be left behind.
So what's the new rule?
Stop flipping houses, start building cash flow engines. Stop chasing what exists, start creating what the market's begging for.
Because the algorithms change.
So should your strategy.